Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running and nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and everyone out there, thank you for tuning in to Computer America. If you're listening to us on the radio, if you're listening to us, of course, through IRN or the like, and of course, you listen to us on the podcast, we thank you so much. And actually just got the notification that our guest is here, so just one moment. And yeah, hey, that means that we're going to have a great show planned for you today, where in the first part of the show, we will be doing an interview with a company called ExtractCraft. And if you haven't heard of them and what they do, this one's going to be fun because as we see marijuana starting to get legalized in more and more places, and the health benefits, everything from medicinal to therapeutic to, of course, just general recreation, this is going to be a topic that I think a lot of people are going to be looking into. So with that being said, first things first, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including the show notes, links to our guest website, any articles that we do, any videos that we show, products that we talk about, all that kind of thing will be at computeramerica.com. Find us on social media at Computer America. We have some recent reviews and articles and things like that. We should be putting out a holiday gift guide here in the next, I don't know. There should be a holiday gift guide up on Computer America soon, so be sure to check that out. So, morning announcements done. Let's go ahead and get started with our conversation today. And, and by the way, second part of the show, we'll be doing computer and technology news where we keep you up to date. But the main feature of today is, of course, our conversation with ExtractCraft. If you haven't heard of them, then, hey, this is going to be the perfect one. You can find them over at ExtractCraft.com. And, of course, they make an ethanol recovery appliance that's easy and safe to use for home and small businesses to make high quality extraction achievable for everyone. Talking about why that's important and all this kind of thing. It's relatively new here on Computer America because if we talked about this 5 years ago, we'd be having a much different conversation with probably the authorities. But with that being said, let's go ahead. Welcome onto the show the CEO of the company, Mr. Troy Ivan. Troy, how you doing? Welcome onto Computer America.
Hi, I'm doing great. Thank you very much for having me. This is a very exciting and interesting place to kind of talk about what we're doing.
Yeah, and of course, Computer America, we mainly focus on consumer electronics, and this one does actually go to consumer. So I figured that it was a bit different, but that's what I really enjoyed because you can talk about, you can talk about malware on a regular basis. You can talk about the best microphones and headphones and stuff like that. But to bring a different kind of product from a different industry into the show, that's something that we always find a lot of fun. So before we get started, let's talk about you. Let's talk about ExtractCraft and give us a little bit of background on the company and a bit of background on yourself. Have you always been, trying a small business owner? Have you always been, trying to make these crazy devices? What's the company's background and your background?
Sure. The company was founded in 2014. We started with the prototype in 2015. We did a a pre-sale launch in 2015, at the end of 2015 in November, so about 4 years ago now, and then started shipping in April of 2016 the first model, the smaller model, the Source Turbo. How it got started was my partner Lee Sutherland is a well-achieved engineer, and came up with the idea of making this small at-home extraction equipment, mainly because he had ailing parents. His mother had some physical ailments that benefited greatly from cannabis oil, but the area that they lived in, it wasn't accessible. It was very, very expensive. So he came up with a great idea on how to design something to be able to make high quality extraction at home safely and simply, which is what the Source Turbo is. And his application, he was in aerospace, he was in a lot of the very high tech design area. So for him to move into cannabis was very interesting. And then for myself, I was in the finance industry for and overseas for about 20 years. I started in New York, then was in London for a very short time, then Tokyo, Singapore, very short stint in Hong Kong, and then back to Tokyo. And then I retired from the financial industry in 2012, when I was looking for stuff to do, things to invest in, things to get involved with, and ran into ExtractCraft and found myself at a very interesting time where legalization was just coming to fruition. This new technology was just emerging, and the ability to bring people kind of out of the dark ages of home extraction into a new, safe, simple food grade application. It just seemed right. It just seemed like it was a really fortuitous timing and great opportunity.
Yeah, and we're definitely going to get into a lot of those points. But the first one I wanted to do was that we have had companies that deal with marijuana in one way or another. And really, it's this idea that you can blend this the cannabis industry with a lot of things in tech, and of course you have some high tech stuff, some hardware that people could really take advantage of, and we're going to talk about that. But I recall on the show we had things like essentially like a clone of Bitcoin, except for tracking. For tracking cannabis and marijuana through blockchain technology and things like that. I mean, you mentioned in your kind of in what you just said that it was a great time to invest. I receive emails almost weekly about the industry out there in Colorado and other places. If you wouldn't mind just speaking to kind of the business side of this, why has legalization of kind of marijuana and CBD and things like that, why has that led to such a kind of a boom in a business sense?
Oh, well, I guess that they call it a green revolution for a reason. It's there was back in the early days, Industrial Revolution, then there was steam power that changed the world, then there was motorization, and now we have this enormous medicinal plant that is helping so many people with so many different ailments, getting off opiates, fighting cancer, knocking down hundreds of daily seizures from kids that have daily seizures. All of these applications from a single plant is explosive, especially considering a lot of the people are getting hooked on all these pharmaceuticals, the cost of healthcare. Or you can grow a cannabis plant in your backyard, you can process it yourself and not be on opiates, treat your seizures, and the applications of a simple plant are enormous. So being able to apply that in a business to a business sense of either growing or supplying nutrients to people who are growing, supplying dirt, supplying essentially what you all often hear people say, the picks and axes to the actual fundamental exercise of growing a medicinal plant. So there's just an enormous amount of opportunity to help people achieve a higher degree of good health and an increased a very large increase in a healthy lifestyle.
And of course, thank you for answering that, and thank you for answering that so completely. It's and really just just between you and me and the audience, I actually wanted my brother to to kind of come on the show because he's out in Colorado. The implications are obvious, but also he is very very close to getting to graduating with the degree in chemistry, and he's been very interested in this. So I wasn't able to book my brother, but I was able to book the CEO of ExtractCraft to be on the show with us because I think he would have given a very interesting insight into the kind of the chemistry side of what you're doing with this. But on that note, I wanted to go from kind of the business side, and you mentioned the dark ages of extraction at home. I have seen it done at home. Not going to get too much into that, but I've seen it done at home. It involves involves a lot of material that honestly is still sitting around the house because there's no other real use for it. Not everyone wants to drink grain alcohol for because it's gross, but there's the dark ages of extraction and what you're offering with two of the products, and you can see them again up on your website. So the Source Turbo and the EtOH, and I guess it's pronounced the EtOH Pro. What is the difference between what people were doing before, either just through homemade materials and online guides, and what you're actually offering as a finished product that people can buy?
Sure. If you go back, hundreds, if not thousands of years, people use cannabis for medicinal purposes, for everything from menstrual pains to headaches to, all types of pain relief. And then in more recent kind of history, one of the oldest kind of medicinals that you talk about are the tinctures, right? So you can see the old tincture bottles that they used, back in the 1800s. And then there's things like you hear about the green dragon. So they use natural decarb and they use the tincture technology just as a normal oral medicine. So it kind of went from that. And then in the late 90s, Rick Simpson kind of brought it to fruition. There's a lot of stuff going on in California, and a lot of the extraction stuff was starting to come around and develop. But Rick Simpson kind of brought it into the daylight with the documentary that he did. And from that point on, people started using things like rice cookers, and let's see, what else did they use? Rice cookers and like old stills. So they were doing extraction under normal atmospheric pressure at the evaporation point of ethanol, which is around just over 170 degrees, 173 degrees at sea level. So what that does is it oxidizes, it decarbs, and it kind of ruins the actual quality of the extract. But the good thing about it is you still come out with the cannabinoids, you still come out with the medicinal properties. So it was still workable medicine. It just could be much, much better.
Right.
So what we did is we brought it out of those normal atmosphere, higher temperature processing norms, and put it under vacuum. And there's a precedent for this as well. If you know what a rotovap is, rotary evaporation systems, they've been using them. They're ubiquitous in labs. And they work under vacuum, but they rotate, and they're hard to deal with, and they're complicated. They're hard to clean. It's a lot of glass, so they break. So what we did is took that technology and applied it to the same people who are using the rice cookers and using the other high temperature stills at home, and thought we could put it under vacuum in a very easy way to use. So now with the technology, and this is kind of where the computer stuff comes in, the algorithms and all the programming, we took the small unit, we balance evaporation, we balance heat, we balance vacuum, we balance ambient temperature, we balance the delta temperature from the inside to the outside to facilitate the condensation and then the pump activity. So there's a lot going on that's basically driven by the pumps inside. So it lowers the vacuum and operates at around 100 degrees, so close to body temperature, to give you a very high quality extract that maintains all the really delicate parts of the plant, the terpenes, the flavonoids, and the cannabinoids. So now what they can do at home with this unit is they can make the same quality extract that you would go to a dispensary and buy. And not only can you buy that,
and by the way, just sorry to step on here, but that's what I was going to ask next was the technology and really the process that that you can do with your machines. Is this something that you created, or is this something that you would see in a professional setting? And so you answered that. Nope.
Okay, I'm sorry. Was that a question? I'm sorry.
And the question was that you answered was, is this something that is the process that you're working with, something that you came up with yourself, or is this what you would see in a professional setting? And I guess you're saying that it is something like what you can do with these machines is what you would see in a professional setting, correct?
Yeah, sure. We came up with in fact, we're the first ones to ever tame pool boiling. And that's why we just had our utility patents awarded.
Congrats.
So those are on the books now. Thank you. So we're the first ones to actually tame pool boiling, and not only tame it, being able to put it at a single push of a button for people to use that would have no idea how to use lab equipment. So that's groundbreaking as far as we're concerned. So yeah, we came up with that, we developed it, and we put it on people's counters. So that's very cool. Yeah, but in the professional setting as well, they not only are people using them at home, people are using them in labs for R&D. People are using them for process testing. So if they have a lot of biomass, before they run them through their machines, they'll use ours to do a test batch. And then also for the larger one, the EtOH PRO, people are using those. They'll buy a few of them because you can do 1 pound to 2 pounds at a time with those in 3 hours. So they're pretty high volume output. And if they buy, somewhere between 2 or 6 of them, they can do quite a bit of processing in a day. So it depends on, it's somewhere between at home small personal batch and small business.
There and of course, this is going to be something that maybe someone who produces these extracts for friends and family, or of course, we have seen a lot of people start up these dispensaries because the dispensaries are just so in demand in so many places. You think this is where someone would, I guess, kind of get a foothold into, maybe just starting the business? And I'll be honest, I don't know what the kind of what the higher end of this is. I'm not sure if there's something that's like $10,000 or $15,000, but for a small business, $2,000 entry point, or the other one, which you're looking at about $600 and going by the prices on your store. For equipment, when I used to work in a chemical plant, that's very affordable. Was that really a goal for you? Was to make sure that I'm sure that a lot of engineering went into this. I'm sure that a lot of research and development went into this, but you kept the prices, down fairly well.
Oh yeah, we're way below whatever the next choice is. And the next choice is like the thing that can compete with the EtOH PRO is like a 5-liter rotovap. And a 5-liter rotovap all in is going to be somewhere between probably $6,000 and $8,000 once you get a quality pump and the training and all the glass and extra pieces. So yeah, the next step up to do the same job is substantially more expensive. And the next generations, the larger units that we've got in process now, are going to have that. We're developing in the same way, saving energy, being sustainable, and affordable pricing.
And I guess
So
I should have.
that's very key for us.
Yeah, and it definitely shows. And I guess I should have asked this, kind of at the beginning, but obviously we are still, as a nation, in the process of legalizing, marijuana. And on the state level, in a lot of states, it's completely legal. On the federal level, it still remains illegal. Not to get political with it all, but hopefully within the next couple of years, I wouldn't even have to ask this question, but. The products that you provide, you're not actually selling any of the, kind of any of the drugs or any, or anything like that. You're providing the machines. I still have to ask, is it legal? Because I'm not too sure about paraphernalia and things like that and what this would count as. Can anyone buy these who might be listening?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And it's actually one of the real hallmark things that set us apart. Is we are the world's first real crossover company. We exist equally in the cannabis side, in the hemp side, in the culinary art side, in the aroma extraction art side, as well as any type of home remedy and apothecary. You can make things. I make for my mother's. I basically eradicated the arthritis from my mother's ankles by making this really great orange and lemon extract that I combine with a coconut oil. And the limonene, the citric acid for the delivery, and vitamin C in those citrus peels actually eradicate inflammation. So you can use the same extraction process with our equipment that you would with cannabis to do hemp, to do these orange peels for these anti-inflammatory rubs. You can do rose oil for perfuming. You can do lavender for bath bombs. We have cosmetic makers in Beverly Hills that use it for their formulations. We have some face serum professionals on the East Coast that use it for chokeberry. We have some other cosmetic people that use it for egg yolk oil, which is an ancient Chinese thing. And if nobody's ever tried it, you should really try it. It's amazing for the hair and skin. And I even make an espresso vanilla cannabis medicated cotton candy. All three of those are extracted with our machine. So my point with all that is anybody can buy it. It's a blender. What you do with it needs to be used within the confines of the laws of where you are. If you're the medical side, the rec side, whatever your local laws are. But at the end of the day, it's an appliance that's used equally for any type of culinary arts, scenting, or medication.
No, and that makes perfect sense. Thank you for answering that. I'm sure that you are much less fuzzy on the laws than I am. And I guess the next question I have, because for anyone out there watching the video portion of the show, we've been kind of flipping through your website and checking out all the great information there, which you do actually provide a lot of outbound links to Facebook groups and guides and things like that. So there is actually a wealth of information on your website. But at the very bottom of your website, I wanted to also bring this to everyone's attention, where clearly, like most products, you have a warning there saying, listen, if you haven't read the manual, don't operate this thing, or operate it safely, read the manual, however you want to say it. Is there any kind of risk of using this incorrectly? Have you designed enough, I guess, kind of, there's no way to trap your baby in this thing. Have you put enough safety features in this to make sure that it's safe for, I guess, kind of home use?
Oh yeah, and that's a huge thing for us. I mean, it would be devastating for us personally to know that we caused anybody harm. So the care and the decisions that have gone into every step of designing these things there's a lot of effort that goes into that. Also, a thing of note that's not on the website yet is the source just passed our UL certification. So we're just waiting. So we're now certified to produce with the UL certification. We're just waiting for the auditor to come in and see our production line.
Perfect.
To give us the final sign off. So the source will be sold as a UL certified product in the next couple weeks. So that shows how safe it is.
Yeah.
But to go to address like what would be and why that warning is there, you're dealing with 190 proof, very high proof ethanol, which is flammable. So you have to be careful how you use it. But I mean, it's essentially the same type of care guides as, using paint thinner in the house, having gasoline in your garage, anything, flambe for cooking, anything that's flammable. The liquid itself is flammable. The equipment itself is not dangerous. So working under vacuum, working at low temps, makes it a very safe process.
No, and just wanted to to kind of ask that question why you have the warning there, and it makes sense is that some of the materials used with this are going to be dangerous outright, but of course yours are they seem very well engineered. You mentioned that your partner came from kind of an aerospace background, and yeah, that would explain all the brushed metal. It's they look very solid and they look perfect for kind of industrial use and things like that. So with that being said, and of course, you can kind of purchase all this through your website. I also see that you have authorized resellers and sellers and things like that. From the business side, actually getting your products out there, of course, getting the word out, shows like ours and so on and so forth. But actually getting the product out there, do you handle all the shipping and all that kind of thing yourself, or how does that work?
Yeah, I'm guessing kind of your question is about what our sales channels are. At heart,
and not really your sales channels, because again, you have the list of authorized sellers, but I'm talking about kind of like the manufacturing of your product, and then of course like your customer service, your shipping.
Oh yeah, we do everything. We do everything ourselves for sure. The portion of the units are manufactured overseas. We get them here in Colorado, in Longmont, Colorado, at our facility here, and we have like the final assembly, the final testing. Every unit gets tested and run here. It gets put together here, it gets run here, it gets tested, then it gets packed up after inspection, and then we ship them directly from our facility here. All of the customer service is handled here, basically in my office. It's myself and Dylan are doing the customer service for the most part. You mentioned the user groups previously. A lot of information is, especially in that main ExtractCraft users group. You'll find me in there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So yeah, we're hands-on with every single part of this business. There's nothing somebody else does for us.
That's exactly what you want to hear, and of course, I hope that you're giving yourself time off, because that's also important too. There's no such thing as that. that's hard to hear, but you clearly have put a lot of effort into this, and this is really, this really seems like your project, your company, and really those user groups I've found, many of them. Many different kind of user groups. Of course, here on Computer America, we deal with, kind of internet user groups and lugs and things like that. They're kind of holdovers before industry kind of took over, and trust me, industry is going to, in one way facilitate that conversation in a different manner. But I have found that this is kind of like the beginnings of a much larger industry, and I think you've positioned yourself very, very well. To that effect, how do you see ExtractCraft kind of growing over the next couple of years? More products, just perfecting what you have. How do you see yourself, kind of going from here?
Yeah, it's explosive. Our growth so far has been close to 100% per year.
Wow.
And that is with the throttle, dialed way back. We've purposefully kind of reined it in to grow slowly. We haven't taken a whole lot of investment. So it's not completely bootstrapped, but we've grown in a very, very lean way. So the company is very closely held. That being said, we are going to be changing that and expanding and growing the company much faster in the next year. So the plans for that are to increase our product line with a couple new larger units that will be coming out in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And then to also kind of build out the online store, build out the offerings kind of around what we've already built. So things that you'll be using to do extraction with the unit, or say spices or herbs, or even now CBD is legal to be able to ship. So we can actually package and sell hemp flower for CBD extractions. And then one of the really interesting and exciting things is we're going to put together some of these craft kits. So people that have this equipment kind of get obsessed with using it. You know, you get it and it's so fun to do, and the results are so amazing. People just want to keep making things. So we're going to be putting together different project kits. They like a lavender mint vitamin E lip balm that's ridiculous. It's so good. And then you can medicate it obviously with some CBD. If you do a CBD extraction, you can put that together. The citrus peel paint rub that I mentioned will be put in a box. Your own custom hot chili extractions that you can make your own hot chili sauce. The espresso vanilla cannabis cotton candy kit. So there's going to be a lot of different stuff coming out in the next year or so that's going to blow people's minds.
Yeah, it almost sounds like you're thinking about a service kind of like Blue Apron, except for your extractor. Right. All the kits are going to come out. You just sign up for the service, and hey, you get a new project at home. Very interesting.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, and actually one more thing I wanted to mention, because of the Source Turbo, we are a tech show, and I did see that this one in particular, you have a smartphone in front of it, as in, I'm assuming there's an app for that. Talk about kind of the Source the Source Turbo real quick, and why it's smartphone controlled, why you felt that was something that was needed.
Well. I guess it's needed because it's the 2000 teens. Everything has to have an app. So people really like to be able to interact with the app. You can see the temperature, you can see the vacuum, you can see the time left in that particular the time allotment before the automatic shut off. So you can monitor it. We built the machine for people to be engaged. That's why, if you notice, the entire outside is glass, which is really, really hard to do, but we did it. The lid is glass, which is really hard to do, but we did it. So people can be fully involved. They can see inside the cup. They can see what's going on. They can see the reclaimed ethanol on the outside. They can see what's going on. Then they can use the app and actually see what's going on in the base, inside the unit. So people are fully engaged in the entire process, which makes it fun, and people want to know. So that's really cool. But you mentioned the tech. One of the really cool things is, if you notice the mention of the altitude tuning. It's the first ever appliance that we know of that has altitude tuning. And what that means, if you're familiar with trying to manage ambient pressure and vacuum, it's a problem. It's kind of like you've heard of a high altitude baking, right? Yeah. So the temperature, as you go up in altitude, your pressure gets less. So balancing performance for any type of operation that includes heat, vacuum, and ambient pressure changes with that altitude as well. But we've built in algorithms and functions in the machine where people don't have to worry about that. All they have to do is dial in. When you first get the machine, you program it one time to wherever you are. Say if you're at about 3,000 feet, you program it for 3,000 feet, and the machine stays programmed there forever and gives you the exact same performance if you're working at 3,000 feet, 8,000 feet, or sea level. It's actually a very groundbreaking technology that we make as easy as pushing a button.
And I think with all the science and everything that goes into this, because depending on how perfect you want your product to be, it can get very complicated. And I think that one button, everything, something's done for you. That's going to be very important for widespread adoption. So I think that you have some amazing products here. You can clearly see the care that you've put into your company, and I want to say, thank you so much for joining us on the show. One last chance before we say goodbye. Is there anything that we glossed over or didn't get a chance to maybe talk about?
Not really. I think we covered everything except for how awesome Colorado is and how fortunate we are to be here.
So you guys are out there too. That's very interesting. I'll have to I'll definitely have to key in my brother. He's out there, for the next couple of years. Hey, so enjoy Colorado. Enjoy all that kind of thing. And I want to thank you so much. So everyone, we've been talking to Mr. Troy Ivan. He is the CEO of ExtractCraft. Again, ExtractCraft.com. We'll have a link in the show notes at Computer America. Troy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, thank you so much. And hey, we're going to sign off and do computer technology news for the rest of the show. But until next time, I'm really looking forward to seeing any updates. And if you do, please let us know.
Great. You have a good day. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. All right, everyone, and there we go. And hey, one more time, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including a link. So with that being said, let's go ahead and continue on here with Computer America. And I think, we're just going to transition so seamlessly into computer and technology news. So let's go ahead and get started. As soon as I find the button. Trust me, I'm a professional. We're going to do this. I should really bind that button to something, just so I could just kind of hit something and do it. Because obviously we could, but we don't. So with that being said, everyone, let's go ahead and do computer and technology news, which is brought to you by Computer America. I think that our first story we're going to do is actually a story that we didn't cover. And normally we're very good about high dollar acquisitions on the show here. And one of the most recent acquisitions is, of course, PayPal. But no, PayPal's buying something else, not getting bought out. So for those of you who don't know, PayPal's been making some very good moves, including the fact that, it was PayPal decoupled itself, or uncoupled, I guess, itself from eBay. Before, PayPal was strictly a service to send and receive money through the eBay auction website. And since then, it's kind of unhooked itself, and it has become one of the best apps out there for, sending and receiving money. Now, it looks like they have their own acquisition, and this is Honey. If you've never heard of Honey, well, it's a Chrome extension that you can get, saying that, and this is from Inc.com. They're saying, I did the same thing when I found that Honey, known for its Chrome extension and honestly its ads, was being acquired by PayPal for $4 billion. You got that right. Check that out. And by the way, we're actually going to hop stories here and hop sources, a little bit more directly to the source. This one coming to us from PR Newswire, which is actually a great way to find out some of the latest stories. But they're saying that PayPal today announced that it has agreed to acquire Honey Science Corporation, a rapidly growing technology platform for shopping and rewards, for approximately $4 billion. Honey, in combination with PayPal's two-sided network, will transform the shopping experience for PayPal's consumers while increasing sales and customer engagement for its merchants. And really, that's the thing. Honey is known for essentially having a very aggressive way of giving you discounts, deals, coupons, things like that, which really those don't hurt the service providers or kind of the providers of goods. No, it actually increases traffic. So Honey has a very real part to play here, and it's good for merchants and of course good for consumers because they get to save money. And PayPal, I find it like such a loose but fitting pair. So the acquisition supports PayPal and Honey's shared mission to simplify and personalize shopping experiences for consumers while driving conversation and increasing engagement for merchants. The combination will help accelerate growth across both companies. Honey will accelerate its growth by driving adoption among PayPal and Venmo. More than 275 million active consumers accounts and sourcing exclusive offers from PayPal's extensive network of 24 million merchants. And really, I guess that's what they're saying is that Honey has access to like 275 million consumers. Like people have tried this thing and they trust it. Whereas PayPal has a very good foothold in merchants and merchant sales, saying, hey, use PayPal, we'll get you money, and it works. Honey will enable PayPal to reach consumers at the beginning of their shopping journey and enhance PayPal's ability to acquire and convert consumers by delivering offers that are personalized, timely, and optimized. Essentially, big data. Honey's very good at saying this person is going to really like a 10% discount or something like that, and they're going to be able to do that. So following the acquisition, Honey will retain its headquarters and brand in Los Angeles, California. Honey co-founders will continue to lead the Honey team as part of PayPal's global consumer product and technology organization. And of course, they will report to the senior vice president, John Coons. Honey's vision has always been to give consumers the tools they need to make the decision about their money. PayPal shares the vision, and together we will build a powerful commerce capability that creates a real value for both consumers and retailers. So with that being said, let's see, anything else here to talk about? Honey was profitable on net income basis in 2018, subject to customary closing conditions, including the receipts of regulatory approval. The transaction is expected to close in the first quarter of 2020, so just a couple of months from now. The acquisition is expected to a word I don't know, to PayPal's non-GAAP earnings, whatever, probably accretive. So, with that being said, got a little businessy there, but I think this is a very interesting thing. And if you haven't tried out Honey, it provides it's an extension that allows vendors to automatically apply coupons, promo codes, deals, things that you normally should be checking for before you buy a product. And the Chrome extension will automatically find those, input those, and just save you money. I mean, it's one of those things that, from a consumer point of view, like if you can handle being advertised to just a little bit, if you go out and buy the latest phone that you're going to buy anyways, then hey, something like this is going to be very attractive to you. If you find yourself being susceptible to advertising and, you're just kind of browsing and then a 10% coupon pops up and you're like, man, now I can't resist it. Honey's probably not for you. But it's something that you can just have in the background. If you do your shopping in a responsible way, it's very, very interesting. So with that being said, PayPal, $4 billion. And the article that we were going to cover mentioned that you don't have to be disruptive to be big. Whereas Honey doesn't actually disrupt anything. If anything, it's the same tactics everyone has been using for a while, just simplified. And that was their point, was that, hey, you don't have to ruin someone else's day to be worth billions of dollars. So there you go. Let's go ahead and continue on here. And I think our next topic that we're going to talk about is Ubuntu. I know it's not Linux Thursday, but that's okay. Ubuntu 19.10, saying that it's fast, like make old hardware feel new fast. And this is exciting because so many people out there, and we've known this, so many people out there use Linux to keep old hardware running. And either there's no more support for the operating system, the components of it are just, they just don't work with the newer operating systems, or newer operating systems makes laptops and phones and tablets and whatnot, it makes them feel really slow and just awful. And that's a place where Linux shines. And of course, there are many different distributions of Linux, many different distributions of Ubuntu that will specialize in this kind of thing. But if the base version of Ubuntu, or I should say, like not a fork, not a separate distribution, but if the main distribution is able to provide that same feeling, then it's going to be a lot easier for people to, get a full-blown experience without having to cut anything like a graphical user interface or things like that. So with that being said, this article from Ars Technica, and they're saying that, Ubuntu 19.10. He's saying that, not only is Ubuntu 19.10 nickname Eon Ermine, So I don't know how you pronounce that. Neither does the author. Own Ermine is, but it's the best non-LTS long-term supported Ubuntu release Canonical has ever put out. And he's quantifying that, saying that because really, as the newest version, it better be the best Ubuntu ever. But there's more than a recency bias behind the statement. He's been reviewing Ubuntu for 10 years, and he's using and interacting with this distro in some form or another for another 3 or 4 years before that. After spending weeks with Ubuntu 19.10, he can say confidently that it's the best Ubuntu Canonical has ever released. So, this review is actually pretty long. It's multi-pages. It's like 3 pages of review, and it's actually very, very in-depth. But we're going to go ahead and jump down to the conclusion. If you want a more in-depth one, we highly recommend that you check out the show notes. We'll include a link over to Ars Technica. But conclusion, Ubuntu 19.10 is unusual for an October Ubuntu release in that he would call it a must-have upgrade. While it retains some of the experimental elements from Ubuntu's fall releases have always been known for, the speed boost to GNOME alone make it release well worth your time. If you prefer to stick to something with more stable releases, most of what's new in 19.10 will eventually be backported to 19.04 and possibly even in the last long-term supported release, which is 18.04. So, hey, it seems like some of the technology is so good, it's even going to be supported retroactively. Pretty good. Still, unless you're unflinchingly committed to the stability of the LTS release, he sees no reason not to upgrade, and as he said from the start, it's quite possibly the best Ubuntu, it's quite possibly the best version of Ubuntu that they have released, Canonical has released. And it's well worth the upgrade, and it's well worth trying even if you're not. So, there you go. We love to hear it. That's a place where Linux really shines, and the fact that Canonical is putting out something that is worth everyone's time, even better. Even better. Let's go ahead and continue on here. Yeah, let's go ahead and continue on here, and we're still looking for other stories. This one is pretty interesting because it harkens back to kind of a topic that we really were invested in when it first happened. And to see this headline, I don't think this is what any of the this is not what any of the scientists wanted, but yeah, it happened. Go. If you haven't heard of Go, it's its own game. I can't even compare it to anything else. But essentially, it was seen as a much more complex version of chess because of the moves and the complexity and the pieces and the tile spaces. There are trillions of combinations that a match can take, and so it was seen as something that when artificial intelligence was able to beat a human at Go. And not just a human, but some of the masters. When artificial intelligence was able to beat that, you have really accomplished something because it's not like checkers or chess where it's a computer can run simulations on every possible move. No, current simulations aren't like that. The computer has to actually have some form of thinking and capacity to operate on, I don't know where this is going, but here's what I want to do. It was very impressive what AlphaGo was able to do when it beat Lee Sedol. And of course, let's go ahead and talk about this from BBC, saying that, in the headline, by the way, Go Master quits because AI cannot be defeated. Saying that a master player of the Chinese strategy game Go has decided to retire due to the rise of artificial intelligence that cannot be defeated. Saying that Lee Sedol is the only human to ever beat AlphaGo software, and of course the sister company DeepMind. In 2016, he took part in a 5-round match, losing 4 but beating the computer once. Saying, "I'm not at the top if I become the number 1." And he decided to retire because of it. Saying that there is an entity that cannot be defeated. He's an 18-time World Go champion, and Lee Sedol is considered one of the greatest Go players of the modern era. He's 36-year-old, former world champion, started playing at the age of 5 and turned pro just 7 years later at the age of 12. So this man has lived, breathed, and, just completely engrossed himself for like 2 decades into the game of Go. And it's hard to think of someone who has the capacity and the ability to do what he does. And he's saying, it can't be beaten. So his defeat by the AlphaGo software was seen as a landmark moment for artificial intelligence, as we mentioned. And so he has a quote here: "On behalf of the whole AlphaGo team at DeepMind, I'd like to congratulate Lee Sedol for his legendary decade at the top of the game and wish him the very best for the future." That's what the co-founder of DeepMind said. "During the AlphaGo matches, he demonstrated true warrior spirit and kept us on the edge of our seats to the very end." So obviously, and Go has been around for 3,000 years. It's and the interesting part was that Go is seen as kind of like a figured out game. When you play one strategy game for 3,000 years, there have been philosophers, there have been experts, generals, kind of everyone took to this game of Go and said, this is how you play, this is the typical moves, this is how you, this is kind of how you operate. It's kind of like if you trained in chess. There are common openers, there's different strategies, there's, best ways to counter certain moves. And what the computer did was something that was so different from the establishment that it was seen as, kind of gross. It was seen as strange and weird and just so not natural because of all the prior knowledge that people have had on playing this one game for 3,000 years. But then it turned out that some of its moves were actually very, very interesting, and even existing Go players didn't really know how to adapt to it. So they say that a typical player has a choice of about 200 moves compared to about 20 in chess. And there are more possible positions in Go than atoms in the universe, according to researchers, which is just simply statistics. It can be very difficult to determine who is winning, and many of the top players rely on instinct. So he said that, despite hopes that development of AlphaGo will lead to similar techniques that can be applied to other structured problems such as protein folding, reducing energy consumption, or searching for revolutionary new materials, we don't need to go over the possibilities of artificial intelligence. But despite his retirement, Lee Sedol is due to play another AI system in December. He will play against Handol, a program developed in South Korea, which was already defeated the country's top 5 Go players, saying that even with the 2-stone advantage, I feel like I will lose the first game to Handol. These days, I don't follow Go news. I want to play comfortably against Handol as I have already retired, though I will do my best. So, yeah, it's, I'm sure that the chess champions had the same kind of thought where artificial intelligence for chess, they will beat you every single time. And if they don't beat you, they will guarantee draw the stalemate. It's just something that artificial intelligence has become so good that they can account for every single move, and it has happened for Go. Obviously, the end result is to not make every board game champion quit. The end result is to actually do something, useful with this artificial intelligence. But it's one of the best ways to showcase, get public attention, and of course to show off what your product can do in a real world situation. So there you go. Lee Sedol. And I know there's been some controversy on whether or not Lee Sedol is actually the best. He claims to be the best. Many champions claim to be the best, and so on and so forth. But regardless, he is one of the best. And for him to kind of quit over this, very interesting. So a little while ago, we mentioned that Ford and Tesla, they were having a fun little thing over Twitter, and I guess it got a little blown out of proportion. Ford, unfortunately, according to the headline, will pass on a tug-of-war with Tesla's Cybertruck. There you go. Saying it doesn't feel the need to prove the F-150's worth. Elon Musk isn't about to get a public duel between the Cybertruck and the Ford F-150, not officially. And while the Ford's venture incubator VP suggested he like an apple-to-apples test of the two, the exec's tweet was only a tongue-in-cheek remark pointing out the absurdity of a clip showing the Cybertruck winning a tug-of-war with the F-150, saying that effectively Ford felt it had nothing to prove. We've always focused on serving our customers regardless of what others say or do. Boy, if there was ever a wet blanket, that might be it. So here's the thing. Ford added that it was going to have a fully electrified truck regardless, including a hybrid F-150 in 2020 and a fully electric F-150 in a few years. And yeah, so there's a couple of things to talk about here. They mentioned that there might not be a clear-cut winner if there is a duel, official or otherwise. As Neil deGrasse Tyson pointed out, of all people, the Cybertruck won Tesla's pre-recorded battle because its inherently heavy design made the most of the electric vehicle's high torque. The F-150, meanwhile, had relatively little weight over its rear wheel system and thus didn't have the traction needed to fight back. Fully loaded, both would still favor the Cybertruck, but the situation where Ford's truck emerged victorious. Or I should say there could be a situation. And by the way, the quote here, you can see it on the video portion, but essentially saying that Elon Musk saying electric motors also have insane torque. If we load both trucks to the max, electric still wins. Physics is the law, everything else is recommendation. And Neil deGrasse Tyson shot back with the hot Twitter reply of, "We all love torque, but high torque just spins the tire in place. If there's not enough weight to provide traction. Fully loaded, the F-150, given the highest traction in its rear wheels, then try to drag that uphill. I otherwise agree, load both to the max and the highest torque wins." And of course, as he said, the torque with the electric engine wins every time. Like there's no stomp on the gas, wait for the combustion engine to rev up the motor and then spin the axles. No, with an electric vehicle, you just get that instantaneous full torque right there. So I do think that the Cybertruck will win, but I guess that's the question. It's not really a fair fight either way because electric will beat gas 100% of the time. It's just a matter of physics. But hey, maybe they'll have that competition again when Ford brings out their fully electric truck. Who knows? Let's go ahead and continue on here. Trying to find. Okay. For as much as we bash Facebook and bash them for doing the wrong thing so often, I see this article and hey. I'm kind of okay with this one. Facebook bans 2 prominent white nationalist groups after Guardian report, saying that the company said 8 months ago it would no longer tolerate white nationalistic content. And Facebook has banned Red Ice TV and Affirmative Right, 2 prominent white nationalist groups, from its social media platform. The ban comes after a publication highlighted Facebook's resistance to take action against them, despite the fact that they said 8 months ago it would no longer tolerate the white nationalist content. And really it shows that Facebook is trying to straddle that line of, being very careful with what kind of speech that they shut out of their platform. But at the same time, that also goes against their written statements and what they said they were going to do. So they mentioned that Red Ice TV and Affirmative Right are among the most visible far-right groups on the internet. The former has interviewed some of the movement's most notorious public figures, and Facebook's ban of the group encompasses the pages of hosts, and they have the hosts here, in addition to their internet radio show. And Affirmative Right, meanwhile, ties to Richard Spencer. A Facebook spokesperson told The Guardian that the company had determined both groups violated the organized hate groups. So, with that being said, it appears Facebook will only take action against the white nationalist groups if it's shamed into doing so. So, I thought we were going to give kudos, but apparently enough is never enough. And they said that the irony of the situation is that at least some at Facebook are fully aware of how bad the optics of the company's lack of action looks. On the same day that the company announced a ban on white nationalism, a bundle of leaked emails highlighted the company's struggle to tackle hate speech. In one of the emails, a Facebook executive said, "It will be easy for the media to say we're being inconsistent or ineffectual." When the company discussed Alex Jones' post, it had trouble deciding whether to ban. And so, again, despite today's bans, Facebook looks inconsistent and ineffectual. So, I don't know. Freedom of speech, having healthy communication on your platform, even ones that you don't agree with, is one thing. White nationalistic and hate speech has no place in public discourse. That's just awful. So there you go. And to some extent, kudos to Facebook. Everyone, the music means that we're just about done here. I want to thank you so much. Thank you so much to ExtractCraft for coming on the program and talking with us about their products. Everyone, Computer America, Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. Find us on the internet and, of course, on the radio. Everyone, thank you so much. Until next time, have a good one. Bye-bye.